ice cream? I skipped a golf game with Trump out of Trump International. Hey, so a couple other, we have Theo Stamos. If you ever get prosecuted in Arlington Falls Church, she'll be the one. And then you can pay your fines to the clerk of the court for Arlington Falls Church, Paul Ferguson.
Oh, where's Paul?
And then, however much your house or your car is worth, that's up to Mr. Clinton right there. None of them are running for election, though, whatever. Hey, so imagine, if you will, 1894. Grover Cleveland, the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, a Democrat. 1894 was the year the railroad workers of the Pullman Palace Car Company lived in a company town called Pullman outside of Chicago. And George Pullman, the CEO of the company, decided to cut their wages and raise their rents. And they protested like crazy, so he fired them all and evicted them all from their homes. And the only good news about that is that prompted Grover Cleveland to sign legislation that created Labor Day today. Great. And you would think, since 1894, we'd have come a long way in terms of labor and workers' rights. And I really wish that were the case. But you look at it, if you make minimum wage in America today, you're still at poverty level. We just passed the largest legislated deficit in history with that crazy tax cut. We're finding that more than 90% is going to the wealthiest Americans, almost none of it to our workers. We're finding that most American workers are stagnant. Their wages haven't risen in almost 3 decades. And labor, when labor unions were strong, there was a lot less income inequality than there is today. I mean, now we have the Janus decision where the court said public sector unions can't charge dues to people that don't belong. And the worst thing this week was Donald Trump saying he's going to freeze federal employee salaries. This, you know, it's amazing. We have 2 million federal employees. The ratio of federal employees to American citizens is the lowest it's been in any of our lifetimes. They get fewer people doing more work for less money than ever before. So we have to stand up to that. And the single way we can do that most strongly is by taking back the U.S. House in just 9 weeks. In the House, we only need 23 seats. We have, I think, 72 official red to blue seats right now. I'm really proud that in Virginia, of the 7 candidates we fielded, 6 are women. And they're terrific. By the way, nationally, half of all Democratic candidates are women. Only 18% of Republican candidates are women. Only 1 in Virginia. And we really want to win big in Falls Church. Yeah, absolutely. And we need to run up the score for Tim Kaine in Falls Church, Arlington, Alexandria. But if you have any weekends, every weekend from now till November 6th, please go to Loudoun County, go to Charlottesville, go to Virginia Beach, go down to northern Richmond, look at Vanjie Williams. But these women candidates are so great. These are toss-up races that we can really win. And the message we're trying to take everywhere is we can take back the U.S. House with Virginia women. Just the way we almost took back the Virginia House with the Virginia women in the election. And by the way, that's also the single strongest thing we can do to strengthen workers' rights in America and to move incomes in the right direction. We also need to have a really good president in 2020, a Democratic president. I don't know who that's going to be, but I do know that Virginia, the birthplace of democracy and the mother of presidents, does offer up some awfully good people. For example, there was one guy who pardoned 200,000 felons and restored their rights. And when the court said he couldn't do it all at once, he signed every one of them individually. There was one guy who fought to make Virginia the first state that didn't have any homeless veterans. There's one guy who spent 4 years trying to take healthcare, Medicaid expansion to 400,000 more Virginians. One guy who created more jobs than any Virginia governor in history. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, Terry McAuliffe.
All right, everybody. Let's hear for the greatest member of Congress to ever serve, Don Beyer. Great to be here at Falls Church. And now we just were in Alexandria together. We're hitting a whole bunch of different areas today to get the vote out. First of all, happy Labor Day to everybody here today. Let's give labor a big round of applause. Every worker's entitled to a wage, a good wage, and benefits. And that's what we as Democrats got to keep fighting for. So we want to wish everybody a great and happy Labor Day. Folks, I'm excited. But then again, I'm always excited. But I'm really excited this year. This is going to be a great year for us, folks. We are going to win the United States House of Representatives. We're going to put it back in Democratic column so that we can go after Trump and all of his amoral activities that he's been doing. And the other good news, folks, is we're going to pick up a bunch of governors around the United States of America. Go clap for that. And I'll tell you why that's important, because we're down to 16 Democratic governors in America. The problem is that 2/3 of the state chambers in this country are controlled by Republicans. So 2020 will be a new census. In 2021, they redraw every line in America, both for Congress and for state houses. So today, in 2021, most of those will be drawn by Republicans. One person can stop it, and that's a Democratic governor. And that's why we have to have a big year. The folks who win this year will be in the chairs in 2021. The good news for us, I was in Kansas last weekend doing their state dinner on Saturday night. Fantastic. Biggest crowd they ever had. Kansas has not, Democrats have not controlled the state legislature since Teddy Roosevelt. How do you like that? But it's coming this year, and we are going to elect a woman governor in Kansas this year. Someday I was in Michigan for their state dinner. We're going to have another great, guess what? A woman will be elected governor in Michigan as well. Women are sweeping the country, rightfully so. Let's hear it for women. Today we'll pick up in Maine, in Michigan, Illinois. We'll definitely pick up Nevada. We'll pick up New Mexico. And guess what? Scott Walker's losing in Wisconsin. He's 10 points down today. You want to talk Labor Day? We all know what Scott Walker did when he got both chambers in 2010. Roll back and taking away all the workers' rights. You know what else he did? He passed a voter ID law. Folks, this is why this is all important. We got to focus on 18, but a lot of it have implications for 20. In 2010, they put both chambers back in Wisconsin. And then they took away all the worker rights, as you know. But what else did they do? They then passed a new voter ID law. And overnight in Wisconsin, 300,000 people did not have the required voter ID in order to vote in Wisconsin. And as you know, Hillary lost the state by 22,000 votes. Yet 300,000 people didn't have the right ID. In Milwaukee, very democratic city, 44,000 people disenfranchised. That is what they do. So that's why 18 is as big as it gets. People talk, forget Trump. Let's talk about how we win in 18, because 18 will set the course. And the message that I give everybody, you want to talk about success? Why am I invited to speak at all these state dinners across the country? Because they look at Virginia, which was a red state, and is now a blue state. Woo! And it's a blue state, folks, because of you. And I first and foremost want to thank all of you, to the grassroots. People always ask me every day on television, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? You are. It's the grassroots. It's the people knocking on those doors, making those phone calls, because there's nothing like that personal contact. And you do it. And I know we're the coordinated campaign folks. Let's give them a great round of applause. Next weekend is the day in action here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They just promised me they're going to knock on 8.5 million doors. Every person, man, woman, and child is going to be knocked out. But sign up on these sheets. But, you know, folks, we had great success. You look at Virginia. 5 years ago, I was running on Labor Day, and I was here on Labor Day. They controlled all 3 statewide offices. We'd become a laughingstock in the country. We passed the horrible transvaginal bill. We passed the trap laws, horrible anti-environment bills. That had all passed. Virginia became a laughingstock on Rachel Maddow and those evening shows, if you remember. Well, we won. We took all 3 statewide offices, and we transformed the state. Working with our small band in the House of Delegates, when I got elected, 32 Democrats. We got up to 33, but they were a strong group, and 20 in the state Senate, and we fought hard. And Don went through the results. We worked hard. We created more jobs, more economic, $20 billion in new capital, $7 billion more than any other administration. Virginia became the cyber capital of America. the unmanned system capital of America, the data center capital. Unemployment went from 5.4 to 3.6. When you elect Democrats, folks, you create. And I don't care what state you live in, that message resonates. And along the way, the largest investment ever in the history of Virginia in K-12, $1 billion we put into it. To all the young people here, we got rid of 5 SOLs. We promised we get rid of 5. We got rid of 5 tests. And if you keep cheering, I'll get rid of more for you. But we leaned in to try and help everybody. I fought hard for Medicaid expansion for 4 years. Bill Howell said the day I was inaugurated, you will never get it as long as I'm Speaker. But that didn't stop us, folks. We fought like dogs for 4 years, and I'm so proud we got it this year. So we used a little hocus pocus and created the Governor's Access Plan. What, 5,000 women, pregnant women now have dental care. We couldn't get Medicaid expansion, so we went around. We took care of all those that have mental illness in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Dealt with the opiate crisis. We leaned in. We put $10 billion into transportation. That's what you get with Democrats. You lean in on these issues. The first comprehensive gun bill in 24 years we were able to pass. We have the toughest protective order law in the United States of America. Today, if you have a domestic abuse situation and you get a protective order, you have 24 hours to hand in your gun or you will be charged with a Class 6 felony. It's the toughest in America. And guess what? Already 11 people have been convicted as felons and have gone to prison because of that law. And for the first time, we now have state police at every gun show. Now, we try to get background checks for everybody. Maybe when we get the legislature next year, we'll get it done. But now we have state police there that at least can do checks. Before, you couldn't even do a check. That's what we've gotten done. So we've leaned in, and I want to thank my wife, Dorothy. When we became into office, 300,000 children food insecure. No breakfast in the morning. When we left office, not a single child in Virginia now does not have access to a healthy breakfast when they go to school in the morning. That's what you get with Democrats. Reformed our criminal justice system. Reduced our juvenile detention population by 2/3. We were spending $160,000 per juvenile, and the recidivism rate was 80% within 3 years. What a waste of money. Well, we shut down the facility, built smaller, community-based, family-oriented, and our recidivism rate has dropped in half. And for our adult population, for 2 years in a row, the lowest recidivism rate in the United States of America. When you invest in people, you win. And that's why this matters, folks. And as Don mentioned, people say, what was your best, worst moment? My worst moment, of course, was Charlottesville, when 2,000 neo-Nazis and white supremacists and alt-right came into our beautiful state, spewing hatred. I talked to the president that day. Told him what was happening. Unfortunately, he went on television and said it was both sides' fault. Well, you know, 32-year-old Heather Heyer was killed that day. She was not there to protest for hatred. She was there to protest against hatred. So I had to go on television and clean up the president's mess and told him to get the heck out of our state. We don't want you in America. That's who we are as a state. And as Don mentioned on the restoration of rights, you know, 40 states, folks, it's automatic. Did you know that? Once you're done with probation, you're entitled to go vote. But no, not here in Virginia. It goes back to 1902 when Senator Glass put a disenfranchisement of felons, a poll tax, and literacy tax in our Constitution. And his quote that day was, "I'm doing this to eliminate the darky from being a political factor in Virginia." That was his quote. 114 years later, new sheriff in town, and with my swipe of my pen, I restored the rights of 206,000. And as you know, they sued me. They took me to court. I got sued twice. I got sued for contempt of court. I loved it. 10 days in the Richmond, you know, I would have lost a little weight. I would have been okay. Instead of letters from Birmingham, and I had letters from Richmond. But they finally came to their senses because they were wrong on the law. And I'm very proud that 173,000 people now have their right to vote back here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And because the court ordered me to do it individually, when I did the order, I don't think a lot of people knew it. A lot of felons weren't reading newspapers. But when I had to do it individually, I said, oh, so what did I have to do? I did the order, big beautiful parchment with the seal and my signature. I put it in a big envelope. I put a voter registration form in the envelope and a self-addressed envelope and mailed it to 173,000 people. Hey, But my point is, folks, you got to lean in. We are a different state today. We are now a blue state. We're a global leader on these big 21st century economies. That's who we are. That's why this is election. That's why we got to make sure that Tim Kaine is reelected to the United States Senate. I mean, we're blessed with Mark Warner and Tim Kaine and a great congressional delegation. We're blessed. But Tim Kaine has been a leader on so many issues. National security issues, economic issues, education issues. And you think on health care, he's come up with a plan, Medicare X, so that everybody in America gets access to health care as it ought to be, like it is in other countries.
Yes.
Tim has been a leader on every single one of these issues. And that's why we got to make sure he wins, and then we got to make sure we pick up a bunch of members of Congress. This is going to be a great night in America. But the spark plug here, once again, is the Commonwealth of Virginia, as it was last year, when we picked up 15 seats, the most since 1880, led by 11 women. We're going to do it again this year, then we're going to come back and take both the House and the Senate. Next year, we're going to have a Democratic majority, $15 minimum wage, folks, right out of the box.
Yeah.
We want to talk about a happy Labor Day. One day. But that's how exciting it is. And then we are going to win 2020, and we're going to end the agony and the misery and this amoral activity of our president. And we're going to take this country in the direction, the great heritage of who we are as the United States of America.
Yes.
It is now my honor to bring up the greatest delegate that has ever served. Not going back to Patrick Henry days. But, Marcus was right with me. We had a lot of battles. He and I actually enjoy a good battle, but we leaned in on all of these very, very tough issues. As I say, only 33 out of 100 we had to deal with, but they were strong, they were tough, they never gave up, and folks, we never lost. Ladies and gentlemen, Delegate Marcus Simon.
I think that is the first time I've ever been introduced by Governor McAuliffe. So I've got the full McAuliffe treatment there. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm not going to be very long. I hope that many of you all will come down the road to Nancy Scott's house for my barbecue at 4:30 a little later. Commercial for that. You guys will get the full speech there. But thank you so much. It's so great to see so many people here in Falls Church for the ice cream social. I've been here. We barely filled up the shelter here. Now we've got folks spilling out and everywhere. It's a great turnout. The committee is doing, the Falls Church City Committee is doing great things over the last several years. I can't be happier to have Falls Church in my district. The governor really did a great job of setting the table for 4 years. It was a little bittersweet that he wasn't there when we finally did, cross the finish line on Medicaid expansion, because it was so much of the work that you did and that you set up. And he talks about being at 32 and 33 when we couldn't even, in the House at any rate, we couldn't even sustain a governor's veto. Actually, during his midterm election, when typically we would have lost seats in the House of Delegates, we actually picked up a seat in the House of Delegates, and we actually did get to the veto-proof majority, so we have to win 1 day a year. The Republicans would have their way all 60 days of the session, but 1 day of the year, and I will thank the governor. He made it. He knew we only had 1 day of the year that we could actually outvote the other side. So he set a record. He sent us 110, 120 bills. 120 bills, the most ever vetoes down, so that we could sustain them and actually have some fun every day in April when we came back for the veto session. And we did. And so we were able to do really some great things, and I think we will do even more great things in Virginia. Having picked up 50, I tell you though, as much fun as that was, it's a lot more fun to be at 49, to be within one vote where we only have to grab one person from the other side to start to get things done when they have to start being nice and actually let me pass bills every now and then. They can't just send my stuff off to a subcommittee because they know that I can't do anything about it. We've got 48 good friends, including 15 brand new ones. And so it's been a lot more fun this year, and it's going to be even more fun in 2020 after we pick up another 5, 6, 7 seats and take back the Virginia House of Delegates in 2019 with the help of folks like you. So, thank you all for everything that you're doing. Let's go out and make sure we do, like we said, run up the score for Tim Kaine. And if you can't, you don't have to go that far. I mean, McLean, just a few blocks away, you've got Jennifer Wexton Terps. I'm sure they'd love to have you guys knock doors. I can't wait to have her as our Congresswoman in the 10th, right next door. And that way we'll have her and Don and Jerry all at my Labor Day picnic next year. So thank you guys very much. Have a good
Congressman Beyer Beyer may have to head on to his next event. I think this is probably your 8th or 9th event today. You're welcome to stay, sir. We want to give you a chance. But Governor McAuliffe has been kind enough to say that he'll answer a couple of questions.
Sure, if you have any questions.
But we didn't want to detain you. So many thanks to Congressman Beyer for being with us. Great to see you. And I think that we have one elected who couldn't be here with us today, our state senator, Senator Saslaw. We also have our mayor, Dave Tarter. Any other electeds that I am missing? We already recognized Tom, but we can recognize Tom again.
Yeah, let me mention something. I just mentioned that we're in Dick's district and Dick's not here. I want to say a special thanks to Dick Saslaw. When Mark and I talk about the 120 vetoes, you know, as I say, I'm the first governor never to lose a veto. And the idea that I did 3 times more than any governor in Virginia history is really saying something. But folks, these were horrible. Every year, it came to my desk to shut all 27 women's clinics down. That passed every year, came to my desk. If I were not governor, that would be the law, and they would be gone in Virginia. HB 2-like bills, that passed here in Virginia. This junk came to my desk. I had to veto a bill that, in order to get an absentee ballot in Virginia, listen to this. You have to fax in your driver's license in order to get an absentee ballot. Now, I don't know how many of you have fax machines. You young people probably know what they are. A lot of people don't have driver's license, but my point to you all is it passed both chambers. If there were a Republican governor, that would be the law in Virginia. You would disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of people. This stuff happened. And I had control of the Senate when I took office. It was 2020. We had the lieutenant governor. Unfortunately, through a disgraceful act of Phil Puckett, a Democratic senator, he resigned a month before my Medicaid vote. So I lost control. So for me to sustain these vetoes was very hard. And the guy who had that all up for me, and I want to give him a special thanks, it would not have happened without your Senator, Dick Saslaw. He is the guy who sustained these vetoes for me. And we fought on a lot of stuff, and there's some stuff, you know, that Dick sometimes didn't agree on. But at the end of the day, I said, Dick, this is more important for the party and who we are, and he always corralled the votes with some of his members. So I just want to give him a special thank you because that would not have happened without his great leadership, and I want to thank Dick for that. And the other thing I'll say that he helped me on, which Marcus alluded to, part of this Medicaid expansion was a deal I worked with 2 years ago. I came up with the idea, the speaker said you'll never get it because it was point of honor to him. Even though 400,000 people would have got health care, people were dying. I lost $2.2 billion a year, we did as Virginia, which really was sick, and I had an opioid crisis and mental health. But he just couldn't even get it out of committee, would not even entertain it as long as he was speaker. And their big argument when I talked to him is, well, it'll bankrupt the state. I said, no. Write a bill, send it to my desk that not a penny of state dollar will ever be used on Medicaid expansion. And how I got to that place, I came up with an idea to get the hospitals to do a provider tax, which was a very difficult thing to do. I secretly worked on it for 6 or 7 months with the hospitals, but when I finally cut the deals with the hospitals and brought them in my office, it was Dick Saslaw who was in there with me to help push it. But for that provider tax, it would never pass this year because I was able to say and leave it and say it wouldn't cost the state. So you should also know that he gets a good handout because he was part of that very secret negotiations I had on getting the hospitals to come up so the state wouldn't have to put any money up. Yes, sir.
Recent poll came out that a majority of Republicans and a vast majority of Democrats, vast majority of people of color, are in favor of Medicare for all. A recent study by the Koch brothers said it saves $2 trillion in American healthcare spending. And it's one of the #1 reasons people aren't setting out on their own to start businesses is not having health security to leave their jobs. Yep. So for businesses, for the sake of winning Republicans, for racial justice, do you think we as a party can come around for what a vast majority of Democrats and a majority of Republicans want, which is Medicare for all?
The vast majority, the whole country wants it. Listen, I'll be very honest, you know as well as I do, healthcare does not work in this country. It is exorbitantly expensive with the prescription drugs and the things we all have to go through. With the regulations we have, if we do not service people well, we should cover everybody in this country. And if you brought everybody in and had a comprehensive plan, Medicare for all, I think it would save the government a tremendous amount of money, and we would get better health care. It will never happen until we get control of both the House and the Senate. I feel very good about the House this year. The Senate's a little trickier. You know, we've got some Democrats up in states that Trump won by double digits. You look at West Virginia, you've got Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly in Indiana, Claire McCaskill in Missouri. I also worry about Bill Nelson. I think that is a very competitive race down in Florida. But if we get, you know, as I say, I've been in 20 states this year since I left office. Huge crowds where Democrat women are coming out of the woodwork, young people, even before Parkland, are coming out. We could get the Senate. If we get the House and the Senate, it won't happen with Trump as president, but in 2020, if we have the House and the Senate, I think you'll see that as a country. It is the right thing to do. Health care is a right, not a privilege, and everybody ought to get health care in this country. Ice cream.
So you're running for president, right?
I am all focused on 2018. I'm not being coy. I get asked this a lot. I am killing myself on 18. I think it's the most important thing we have going. I think after the November 2018 election, I think the 20 people who are probably considering it will take a look at it, and they'll make their decisions. But I really bothers me that people are even beginning or talking about it. Our future is on the line. If we don't win these governors, folks, we'll be out of the game. We've been out of the game for 10 years at the state level. And the point I try to make to Democrats around the country, no offense to Congress, nothing gets done. All the rollback of individual freedom, progressive values, it's happening at the state level. As I say, I vetoed 120 bills. That would be law today. But that's not just Virginia. They control 2/3 of the chambers in America. The Koch brothers put up $1 billion 10 years ago. They took over North Carolina. They went into these progressive states, and they took them over. And they've rolled back, and they've made it harder for people to vote. New voter ID laws. They shorten early vote. They know what they're doing. We got to stop that. And so, let's focus on 2018, and we'll have a beer in December. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
When are you going to get the gun show loophole closed?
Well, I mean, I proposed it every 4 years.
I've been talking to Marcus constantly about it.
I'll tell you, I don't see when it will end. I really believe this. It will end in the January session of 2020. We have a new redistricting map coming up for the House of Delegates. I think we'll get to 57, 58, 59 Democrats. We have 2 great pickups. I think Dick Black is gone in the Senate next year. I think we got a great Sturtevant seat down outside Richmond. I think we get the House and the Senate in 2019. We have a Democratic governor. For 4 years, I did shut the gun show loophole, background checks. They never saw the light of day. They used to have this disgraceful practice in the General Assembly where we'd call it the killing fields. Most of the governor's bills would get introduced at 6 in the morning, nobody there, no recorded vote. No recorded vote. So a very important piece of legislation, no one even knew who voted yea or nay on it. Disgraceful. Disgraceful. So I think it's coming. I'm just telling you, we're going to win the House and Senate with the governor. You know, $15 minimum wage, background check, shut the gun show loophole. It is going to be a new day here in the Commonwealth. My only point is the majority of Virginians feel this way. But why haven't we gotten it? You know why, because they have gerrymandered the districts. The maps that we put forth in 2011 were horrible, and it put the House of Delegates Democrats into a permanent minority, and we get more votes. And yet we don't control either chamber. Ohio, Democrats in the state legislature get 60% of the vote, yet they don't control either chamber. Michigan, 56% of the vote Democrats get. We don't control either chamber. It's because of these horrible gerrymandered districts. I happen to be for nonpartisan, independent commissions to draw all 50 states. You got to get the politics out. Today, politicians pick their voters. Voters don't pick politicians. That's a joke. It's all picked ahead of time. It's ruined our country. Why would Bill Howell not do Medicaid expansion? I used to have 6, 12 Republicans come over the governor's mansion privately, sneak in. Governor, I'd vote for it tomorrow. I know it's the right thing to do. I have a rural district. I got an opiate crisis. I need the money. But Governor, if I do, I'll lose my Tea Party primary. And they were terrified of a Tea Party primary they would lose their job that pays them $17,000 a year. Think of that. But a platinum health care plan they get. Platinum health care plan. I'm just using him as the example. He always voted with me. But that's the problem, because they're scared of the primaries, and it's just driven people into the corners, and nobody will work together. So I consider myself a very fiscally conservative, pro-business Democrat, socially very progressive. I think that's where most people are. Yep. Protect your taxpayer money, spend it wisely, create jobs, and leave people alone.
Yep. So I think we have time for one more question from Don.
So, Terry, thank you very much for coming and for your remarks. You've covered 2 of the branches of government. I have a question about the 3rd. How are we going to stop Brett Kavanaugh from getting on the Supreme Court?
Yeah, it's a good question. And this guy should not be on the court. I think I wrote a tweet, Republicans went wild when I did it. I said millions of lives will be at stake, and I truly believe it. You roll back Roe v. Wade, women's lives will be put in jeopardy. I'm very concerned about this. The idea that 90% of his public documents that we should be able to see ahead of time, we're not allowed to see, to me that should be disqualifying. Folks, if this were on the, I mean, just think if this were the other side. If this were a Democratic judge and we refused to release 90% of the documents, they would have shut the Senate down. Now there's some talk, do you just walk out of the Senate, or do you stay there and ask questions? I think you got to be there and you ask the questions and you got to do it. I don't believe they should just walk off the committee. That's not my personal, I always like to be in the arena, I'd like to ask my questions. But we just got to convince a couple of them on the other side, and hopefully through the hearings. But I'd like to see all the documents. I think in fairness, if you're going to be a Supreme Court justice, we're entitled to see all the things that he's written.
Transparency.
We are so grateful to you for being here. I think you may want to take a couple pictures with folks. Folks trying to, we all want to talk with them, but
and eat some ice cream.
Quickly.
Listen to me very carefully. In 2016, in the presidential election, 92 million Americans did not vote. Hillary Clinton lost Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by a combined vote total of 77,000. 92 million people stayed home. 92 million. And they all woke up the next day and said, holy cow. How did this happen? It happened because people did not exercise their right to vote. Let us show them once again why Virginia leads the way. Please, 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 make sure everybody gets out and votes.